Hello all my beautiful sisters from those other misters. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a review and some demos of the new Nars Stargaze eyeshadow palette for holiday 2022. So I picked this up at Mecca and I bought it online because I really wanted to go into store and swatch it first and see it in person to decide if I really wanted it. But I had FOMO and I didn't know when I was going to be able to get to the shops, and I was worried it was going to sell out because Nars palettes tend to sell out for the holiday season. The palette is still available on the Mecca website though, so you know, if you want it, you can get it. It's 89 Australian dollars. It retails for 60 US dollars in the States. It has 5 mattes in there, and they say there's like shimmery toppers and creamy satins. I think what we'll do is we'll start by swatching the palette, and then I'm just going to take you through my thoughts based on the looks that I created with it. Okay, we're going to start with a really beautiful gold shade that has some hints of peach in it. It's, you know, it's not a flat gold. It has, I don't want to say duochrome, but it's almost got that vibe a little bit with the extra warmth in there. Then we have a mid-toned matte brown, and we have a really beautiful champagne shade. Next we have a really nice taupey matte shade, which is just bomb. It's what I know and love from Nars. Then we have a like a reddish brown, which, look, this is where things start to get a bit funny for me. It's not what I know and love from Nars. It swatches woefully. Doesn't apply all that much better. And then they have this sort of chunky wet formula, which they're like metallic shades basically. And this one's sort of like a warm brown with hints of gold and a little bit of like reddish undertones. Then we have a satin purple shade, which is, I don't know, it seems to swatch okay. We have another one of those sort of chunky wet formulas. This one is a purple, and then we have a dark cool toned brown. This is, it's kind of blackened, as you can see, and looks a bit patchy. And the last 3 shades are a satin dark plum. There is another one of those sort of wet formulas. This one's in sort of like a, you know, a reddish shade. And then we have a matte raspberry. So that's the palette there. It's nude, it's purple, and it's red. For me, that's up there with like an ideal color story other than just a straight up nude palette, because red eyeshadow is one of my favorites. Purple pairs really well with reds. I can wear purples, but they're not like my absolute favorites. I love to pair them with reds because I think the contrast and the color combination is really beautiful. However, I don't think I love this palette, and that is mostly because of the formula. So the first look that I did, I used the taupe in the crease, and the taupe is just beautiful. It is what I know and love from Nars. It has this really beautiful, like, soft formula that blends just so well. And the pigmentation is not super intense, but it's not wishy-washy either. It's like, for me, it's the perfect level of pigmentation, and the formula of it allows you to use it however you want. So you can apply a tiny bit and create like a shadow that is a no makeup look, or you can build it up and layer it to get a color that's similar to the pan and get that nice intensity. Then I went in with this sort of mid-tone reddish brown. I put that on the outer corner and the inner corner. It also ended up going on my lower lash line. I did kind of like a halo eye with it, and then I used this purple on the like center part of my eyelid. Now, when I was using these 2 shades, I was running into issues and I was like, the fuck is going on? This shade just didn't seem like it wanted to stick to certain areas of the eye. It was, you know, dusting away. And when I was then placing this over the center of the lid, whenever this came into contact with this, it was like it would pick it up and just fucking make it disappear into the nether. So I had a lot of trouble with those two formulas working together, and I was wondering if maybe it was my like eye primer, the way I'd sort of set my eyes that day. It could still be that, but I've played with a different priming method, so we'll get into that with the last look, the one that I'm wearing today. I finished off the look just by taking this gold shade on the inner corner, and like I mentioned, this mid-tone brown along the lower lash line. The look turned out really well, I will say that. Putting on a wing liner and some lashes managed to hide any of the sins, and I wore it in a video and you guys were like, oh my god, I love this eye look. But if only you knew like the lengths I had to go to get it looking mildly okay. The second look that I did, I wanted to use the two satin shades. So I used the satin lavender shade in the crease. I didn't really like it. I feel like it looks really dated and I just don't think it's cute, but you know, I was determined to use it and see how I felt about it. Then I went in with this dark plummy shade on the outer corner. It was okay, but again, kind of a little bit sort of patchy, and I had to like, you know, work with it to make it work. I used this metallic red over the center of the eye. That was fairly nice. I didn't run into any of the issues with it like picking up and removing this darker plum shade though, which was great. On the inner portion of the eyelid, I used this shade. It was very pretty, and I used what did I use on the lower lash line? I actually have no idea. Oh, I'm pretty sure I went in with this along the lower lash line to lighten it up a bit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. This shade, when I was applying it and blending it, a satin formula is typically, it's kind of like a hybrid between a matte and a shimmer, if you're not aware. If you are, sorry if I'm mansplaining to you. Womansplaining? Whatever. But usually what's great about a satin formula is they can almost give you the effect of a matte, so you can use it in place of a matte eyeshadow. But the benefits are it blends really easy. They usually adhere very well to the skin, so you can get nice color intensity out of them. But also they have a slight sheen to them, so they make the eye look a little bit more light reflective and a bit brighter, which is, it's fun. And it's great if you have like small deep set eyes and you want to make things look a little bit bigger and, you know, sort of enhance them a bit. So I was thinking that the combination of these two shades would go well together. Typically a shade this dark, too dark for me, I wouldn't reach for it too much, but I'm like, they're both satins. I think they're going to be able to bring something great to the table. What I found with them was that the formula was just a bit kind of, I don't know, like they didn't really want to stick to the eye that well. I had to like layer them up a lot. And if I was trying to blend, so the movement of the brush, it was like it would just sort of dust it away. So I wasn't really impressed with them. The red one was fine. You know, they stick to the eye. Look, they're a very like, when you feel them in the pan, and you can probably see, like, they feel really textured. They feel almost wet and creamy, and they're like chunky, and you can probably see simply by how it blends out. It's almost like it blends like a cream. So if you're into that formula, there are 3 in the palette, and they're not bad. I think my issue that I've had with them so far is they don't all play well with the mattes in the palette, but I think that is an issue of the formula of the mattes, not the creamy sort of metallic shades. Look number 3, I went in with this taupey shade in the crease just because I didn't really know what else to use, and I wanted to like focus on this red, so I didn't want to mute down the red too much. And taupes are great because they're kind of like a neutral grey tone. They don't really distract from other colours if you're trying to use like brighter colours. So I went in with the red on the outer corner. It also ended up going on my lower lash line. I used this gold shade on the center of my lid, and then I went in with the champagne on the inner part of my eyelid, but not just like in here. I went like sort of in this part here. And this was, I was just like, I suspect this is an issue with my primer. I think the formula of these eyeshadows needs something sticky and grippy. Unless it's these guys, they, you know, they grip okay on their own. But based on today's look where I used a different primer, I would 100% say use a stickier primer for any of the shimmers or metallics in the palette, because you're going to get the best results. I was just using my Ultra 3 eye primer for most of the looks, and I honestly was just kind of like, is it the palette or is it the primer? I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna lean on the side of it's the palette, because I've been using that Ultra eye primer for ages and I've never ran into issues with it. It works well with everything unless the eyeshadow is what I consider crap, basically. So what I ended up doing, these two shades were looking really lackluster and just sad, and I was like, this is not it. I'm not okay with this. I applied them wet to get the intensity that I was looking for, and that works, and that's fine. I don't mind applying an eyeshadow wet. I just want to learn that that's what I need to do to get the best out of it. But the reason why it disappoints me in this palette is because typically I don't need to do that with Nars formula, Nars eyeshadow formula. I feel like something is very different here compared to past years. Okay, let's go on to the look that I am wearing today. It's using most of the nude shades in the palette, and I did use the Pat McGrath Labs Intensifies Artistry wand instead, because I was, you know, my past experience had been pretty lackluster with my usual eye primer. So I went in with this shade in the crease, and instantly I noticed a difference in the way that it was applying and adhering to the eye. It definitely had that, like, I want to stick in place and I need to be blended for 20 minutes to look smooth kind of vibe going on. I used this darker shade in my outer corner. It's okay, it's not my favorite. I suspect there would be the risk of patchiness here depending on the type of eye primer you use. I think if I'd used the Ultra 3 one, I would have been very pissed off about how this was applying. But since this is significantly more grippy, I was sort of able to put it on, blend it out, and then like fill in any gaps that I thought looked a bit funny. I went in with this metallic brown over the mobile lid or the eyelid up to sort of like the inner part of the eye, and that applied really beautifully. It also blended quite well over this darker matte brown. Then I used the champagne in the inner corner and sort of like down here near the tear duct area a little bit, and I used the mid-toned brown on the lower lash line. Typically I would say a primer like this is best applied just like over the eyelid, where you're going to put like things that you want to be really grippy, so like glitters or shimmery colors that don't have a lot of payoff and need to be applied wet, stuff like that. I wouldn't typically recommend using something like this all over the eye to prime, because it's kind of not necessary and you run the risk of making your job harder with the blending, and I think I did kind of run into that issue today, so you know, my fault. I know better. I definitely think the looks that I created with the palette were really pretty and totally like the sort of eye looks that I like to wear, which is why I was, you know, fairly comfortable going in blind to buy it without actually swatching it in store. Even with this lavender shade, which I personally feel is quite dated, which, you know, I talked about, it brings vibrance and brightness to the palette that is quite lacking. The only other like lighter shades in the palette that are sort of shimmery or have like actual light reflection are these two shades up here, and they are boring. I love these sort of shades. They are my favorite, and I find them so easy to wear, and you know, they're effortless. But for a lot of people, they're really boring. So I don't hate that the lavender is in here, and it does work very well with a lot of the other reddish and purple tones in the palette. So I think like the color story itself, I don't have an issue with. For me, there are problems with the formula, and I think mostly the mattes, some of the shimmers not having good grip. That's a problem for me personally. So I'm not sure if something has changed with the like manufacturing of NARS palettes. I have gone back and had a little look through, you know, my past holiday palettes. Most of them are made in the US or Canada, and I do have the Bijou here, which was made in Italy, and this guy is also made in Italy. Also, can I just say, like, can we just look at a little, like, you know, a running theme with like NARS special edition palettes. Like, look at the packaging. Just look at it. Look at it. It's like, it's magic. It's magic. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It just adds to the vibe. And then you've got stars. So in the future, I will definitely be heading into a store to swatch NARS palettes before I purchase them. I will not buy eyeshadow palettes blindly on the internet again, although I did buy another palette blind this year, but I had to. It was one of the VisArt palettes. They're not in store in Australia, so I have no option. Hopefully that one will be better, but I'll do a review of that sometime, probably. I don't know when I'll get it up, but I'll try and get it up soon. Yeah, I think if I had been able to swatch some of these in store, I would have had feelings about some of the mattes, and I would have been like, do I really want to bring this into my life? I might have had the willpower to leave that one in store. But I guess we will never know, because that's not the path that I chose to take. So if you guys picked up the NARS Stargaze palette for holiday this year and you've had a play with it, I definitely want you to let me know your thoughts. Maybe you had a great time with it. Maybe you haven't ran into any issues. Maybe it is straight up just my primer. Maybe that is the case. Look, without testing it further and extensively with, you know, different eyeshadow primers, I can't really make that call. I would just say, you know, go in store and swatch it. If you're intrigued and you think you want it, you like the color story, I would say go in store and swatch it first and see how you feel after that. I'm gonna go. I've thrown myself off because I didn't do my outro the way that I usually do. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will catch you in the next one. Bye.